Welcome, changemakers. Here we are at the Global Empowerment Summit, and I'm bringing you another gem, someone who is very, very close to me. We are very similar, but the honest thing is, we have never met. We just feel that the energies are so aligned. We are talking about different things. We are opening up to each other, but the fact is, guys, this is possible. I just have to tell you that this is possible, and once we will meet up, I believe this will go a little bit deeper, and then we will become a long time friends, because it's just like I met Malar sometimes already in my previous life. I don't know. I just feel that we are so connected. So Malar, hi. How are you today?
I'm good, actually. Until you told me, I didn't realize I've never met you.
No.
Okay.
Never in person.
I will blame it on my wisdom of years of living. But really, I know a lot of people, I do feel that way. But for some reason, with you, I had thought we've met. But thank you for the reminder. I'm good, and it's better after I connected with you 10 minutes ago, Andrea. Because I think you have a way of being present. Because every time I speak to you, I feel really good with your presence and the way you make me feel. So thank you for putting me in a state that I need to be for this. Right? So yeah, that's what I'll say. Well, the topic is being whole, being me. Or what you've done is you've transitioned me to say that, to feel that, it's okay to be me with Andrea and the rest of the people if they are. Thank you.
I really love it. I really love it. And the audience will also get to know you, and they will see how you are, and then they will also love you. So let's just start from that point. Who is Manar really? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and what are you doing? Where are you from? What's your favorite food?
Oh my gosh. Or where do I start? From the time I was born? Okay, I come from this state in Malaysia, if you know Perak, and I grew up in Ipoh. And in Ipoh, the place I always feel very anchored is a place called Buntung, simply because it was a space where I grew up in a very humble area, and in Buntung it was known in my growing years for gangsterism, right? So I think I had a very rich and exciting childhood. I didn't know then, but now I know it now. And of course, after my Form 6, so I went to a convent school. Can you believe it? Because my mom was very particular about me going to a convent school because she wanted me to be good. I went to a convent school. I'm not sure that I was good, but when I went to Form 6, right? It's like the A levels here. First time, I was in a co-ed school with the boys, which is why I never made it to the university. Because from a convent to a co-ed school, good-looking guys, and that's it. So I didn't make it. I didn't make it to the university. Or I didn't get the course I wanted. That's like more like I made it to the university, but I didn't get the course that I want. And so I packed my bags, came to KL. After that, that was like 30 years ago. I came to KL and did my studies part-time, right? Started off as an accounts clerk, did a couple of jobs along the way, and finished my degree. So my first degree was in company secretarial. I did a professional course, after which I fell in love with training, did my master's and all the other things that has got to do with my training. And now I have founded my organization, which is known as Hearts and Minds Development Center, for the last 20 years. And we specialize in emotional intelligence. So that's that from the professional front. But my pride is the fact that I'm a mother to my 3 beautiful children. My eldest is 17. Her name is Alexandra Shruti. And I've got a set of twins, amazing set of twins, Lilendra Shresti and the apple of my eye, Lucius Logan. That's my son. And they complete my life, of course, with the father. That's my husband. So that's my little beautiful family.
And your favorite food in Ipoh? Because that's like the food capital of Malaysia.
Chong Fan. So in Ipoh, I love the chong fan, the plain one, because it is just absolutely so tasty because it's just the chee chong fun with the sauce, the red sauce, and it's just different, right? You don't get it anywhere else except Ipoh. So if I go to Ipoh and I want to eat out, that's what I look out for. When I was pregnant, that's the only thing I crave for from Ipoh. So anyone who goes to Ipoh, they need to bring back chee chong fun for me if they love me.
I love that too. I love also the herbal chicken, the one that they cook, the cooked chicken with the yum yum. So nice. Ipoh
Yeah,
is
when
one
I
of my favorite places.
that's what everybody says, right? But we never grew up eating out much. So
Mhm.
like I'm not a foodie from Ipoh because and my mom is such a good cook. My sister-in-law is such a good cook. So you end up going to home cooked food. But so I'm not the best person to recommend, but Chee Chong Fun anytime.
That's great to hear. And I love the explanation, how you explained, like, yeah, you just took life like this and you went like this and didn't go to the course that you wanted, but you are still here and you are. Today, I'm inspired by all the people that I'm talking to, all the experts who came today. It's very, very funny because every day I find some alignment between the different speakers. Like today, it was about the self actualization and the people who just took the flow and just went with it throughout life and just they are there where they are because of their feelings, because what they did. And it is so interesting that you are coming also from that perspective of
Oh,
following your heart, basically, right?
exactly. I mean, I think so if anyone asks me, so sometimes people ask you, can you tell us what's your secret of success? I mean, first and foremost, I don't associate myself to success. I have a very good life and I'm feeling very fulfilled with my choices, right? But I don't associate that to success, right? And when if people ask me, say, what did you do? I said, well, I just followed my heart, right? And it's true because I never really planned to be where I am today, right? Because I don't think I had such big dreams. But I ended up further than the goals I probably would have set for myself, right? So it's much more further. So even now, if you ask me, what do I have bigger goals in the future? I'm not too sure because I think I've gone further than I had expected of myself.
Coming back to the topic, actually, this is very,
Mm.
very much aligned with the topic. Is that sometimes people are, um, not satisfied with what they have because they always want more and more and more and more, and their whole life is about like chasing this whole idea of being someone else or being more than they are today. But being whole and being you means that you arrive to a state when you are already not wanting. So in that perspective, you don't want more. You arrive to a state when you're happy where you are and fulfilled already, and everything else what comes, it just comes and it's just enriching your life, right? But how can you get to this state, and how can you come from this weird stuck kind of I want success, I'm hunting success, to a peaceful mind of being whole?
Right. So I'm going to make this remark that I she's the thanks, Cheryl. Love you too. So the thing is this, right? I'm not sure whether I would say I'm whole now, right? I'm not sure. I wouldn't dare say that, right? But what I know is that so I've always been very true to being me all my life,
Mhm.
right? And I think I'm made that way by default. I blame my creator really, because and I always say this with my friends and people who know me will know, right? If I don't act congruently, if I don't say what I feel, if so, for example, I do this to a lot of people, right? Let's say my first impression of you, I didn't like you. All right. And then after talking to you, I end up really, really liking you, right? And when I meet you, I have a need
Oh, I
to,
remember this one.
yeah, I have a need to say that I'm so sorry, but I actually didn't like you. Because if I don't say that, and what happens for me is I really cannot sleep, right? So peace has been something that I had to always anchor in, not because I'm principled, I don't have big words, but for me, just, living my life the way I need to live, to listen to myself, to be together, right? Which I know now as my whole self, right? So my current belief where I am is this, right? I'm a soul and I wanted a body, right? I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. Now, if I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, right, my human experience should serve my soul and spirit, and vice versa. Because when I don't do that, I create the enemy within. So when you try and be two different person, right, and in sometimes it's not two different person, it's four different person, right? So you have the spirit in you, the real you, right, is there residing, right? And it needs your physical self to manifest and to express itself. That's through your mental, emotional, physical, and relational, self, right? And when you are going four separate ways or five separate ways, right, you're all torn, right? And being whole means bringing all parts of you together and act as one, at any given moment of time. And when you do that, I think you feel really, really good about yourself. And for me, my test is, I'm Wayne. So it's, for me, it's like at any day, at any time, if I can look in the mirror and say, you know what, that woman there is my most favorite person because she has showed up as herself, I'm okay.
That's so funny that you say this. I'm always telling to people I cannot lie, because when I lie, I try to lie. I get embarrassed, I get red, and I'm like, I give up. I just cannot do it. That's why I was
Yeah.
not good in sales jobs, never ever, because I just cannot pretend. It's very crazy skill in today's world when you have to really be pushy. But I guess we found our ways, because empathetic people are also having this soft kind of finding their ways of to people. And the
Right.
second thing was, when you were talking, I was thinking about the movie, the little animation called Soul. I don't know whether you saw it.
No.
You
So,
have to see that. I think it's
okay, I
it's
will.
called Soul, and it's really funny because it's coming from the other perspective of the soul searching back for the body, and it's
Ah,
yeah, it's called Soul. It's a 2020 animation movie. So if you want something, you will love it. Just watch it.
okay.
I believe.
I'm glad I hadn't watched it because I didn't copy it from there. But I'm going to watch
No,
it.
no, no. Soul is very interesting. It's the first time I was like, first it was weird, but then I understood what's behind, and it's kind of and a very nice, thoughtful animation that they created about it. So
I
really,
mean,
really nice.
exactly right. Because we often talk about, so when we talk about being me, and I think authenticity is big, right? And one of the core questions that I need to keep asking myself when I'm in conflict is, who am I, right? And very often, whenever we look at our role or identity, the question of who am I is often associated to the physical self,
Mm-hmm.
which is supposed to serve the self, like the real person, that you came into the world to be, right? And I think that's where I'm recognizing my fearless has been not serving myself, my true self, right? And when I don't do that, I don't know about happiness. I'm not big on happiness, but I'm big on my currency for happiness is fulfillment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I feel fulfilled, I'm all right, right? Because for me, and I know it's different for different people. For some people, happiness is a state, uh, and a trait, right? So some people are always chasing happiness, and I really don't think there's anything wrong because I don't know how to be there. Because for me, happiness is a state. There are
Mm-hmm.
things that make me happy. I can jump, I can be happy. But when I am together, I feel fulfilled. And that's my check-in for me to see whether I'm feeling whole.
It reminds me of the Flow. You wrote the Flow from Csikszentmihalyi. It's kind of like my favorite book. I just love it.
No, and you're absolutely right. You've hit it right, right? Because when we are in flow, we lose. We're not conscious. We are not
Mhm.
self-conscious. We don't pretend to be who we are not. We don't try to be someone else, right? And that's where authenticity sits because you are now matching. Okay, this is who I am. And unfortunately, I need to figure out a space for me to belong, which is acceptance, right? And what we're doing is that, first you figure out who you are as a person. Maybe when you're much younger, when you have less power, you may not be able to choose. You may not be able to choose where you belong, right? Because you're growing, you're looking for your tribe
Yeah.
as you find yourself. But once you have more clarity about yourself, your choices become very clear. You want to belong to a tribe that knows your worthiness, right? But for me to know my worthiness, I need to know who I am. What do I stand for? How do I want to show up, right? Because then I know, immaterial of what is the value that is set by the world, I am worthy as I am. And I think for me, those are some things that I've learned in the last 1 year.
And when you meet with people, when you meet your people, your tribe, or the people who you help, what are the challenges that they are meeting with throughout this journey of becoming whole or finding themselves, or what are the biggest challenges which are mostly similar for most of the people, or are there similarities, or is everyone totally different?
I don't think we are different, but I think we might verbalize it differently, right? And I think my thoughts around it is, I think the biggest challenge is first to listen to your voice within. And to listen to your voice within, you need to literally cut away the noise from the outside, right? Now, that's your upbringing, your culture, all the things that is set on the outside as a parameter for your worthiness, right? From your education, what you can do, what car you drive. There's just a lot of noise. When do you become financially independent, right? Are you married? Do you have children? So there's a lot of noise that you've been programmed for many, many years. And we have set our value, i.e., worthiness, at that, right? So you need to reduce first that noise. Because if without reducing that noise, you can't hear your own voice within, right? So how do you do that? You find more clarity about who you are, what you want, how do you want to show up, what are your values, what are you really serving. And you need to just know, when you are together, how great that feels. Now, once you understand how great that feels, you actually have less temptations, because you know that the temptation from the noise is going to happen at the price of you sacrificing a part of yourself, or a part of you need to die for you to achieve that. And I think that's where self-love comes, and you begin to think, is this really worth it? If people want me to show up in a particular way, and that's going to kill a part of me, whether that's worth it, right? And this is where you know you're really worth it. And because if you're worth it, it's not worth killing a part of you. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yes, that's a beautiful analogy. I think it's I believe most of us are having a little bit of a time in our lives when these little parts are a little bit like dying, because of the societal pressure, because of the expectations of the parents, because of the our expectations for ourselves, what we want to achieve. Then you arrive to a to a place where you have to work, and then you have the professional expectations, and then you are just like going around finding your own place. It's kind of like part of life. But it's very important what you said, that when self-love shows up, then it's good because it's protecting your core and it's protecting the main value that you have. And then it's not letting to the sparkle of yours to die out, right? Because it always will keep you on this path of, okay, but I'm more, I want more, I am not whole yet. So let's work it out. What am I? Who am I? Where I'm going, right?
Yeah, and I think this is where I think listening to emotions is very powerful, because we listen to emotion that makes us feel uncomfortable, which is often labeled as negative emotion, right? So when you're not true to yourself, you suffer, right? And how do you know you're suffering? Because you experience anger, sadness, hurt. Now, that's because a part of you is asking you to pay attention to what you've done to yourself, right? And because you were not paying attention to yourself, it gets louder and louder until your suffering is loud, not the pain, right? The suffering is loud enough for you to pay attention to the part that you've ignored, right? And I think the moment, and that's why I love emotional intelligence, because if we can look at emotion and say, let me work backward and see why am I feeling the way I'm feeling, and acknowledge it, love it, embrace it, and then it's gone, and then you find that, whoa, I found another part of me, and I healed a part of me because it was suffering, and now it had a chance to heal. So I think that's where the part on emotions is really amazing.
But that means in our lives, throughout our lives, we are never really 100% whole. We are just moving towards it, right? Because there's not really a perfection in this picture.
So
Because it becomes again a trigger and a pressure and an expectation and all this. So it has to be a peaceful thing, like accepting that we are ever evolving and we maybe never get there to the 100% completion, but it's always an evolution, right?
So I'm not sure. So my goal is never perfection. I'm allergic to perfection actually. So my goal is never perfection. But I think it's if you when you think about yourself as a whole self, right? We also need to look at our life and life circumstances, and sometimes if you've had difficult background and you didn't get enough support, you could have given away a part of you that you can't reclaim. You could have lost a part of you that you cannot find back, right? And when that happens, I think what we can do is to now say, with the pieces that's left, can I make an art out of it, right? So it's like, healing
like the broken plots, the broken
exactly,
plots.
right? So if you have a wound, right? I know the wound has come out. I'm going to heal it, but sometimes the wound is so bad. You happen to be at the wrong place, and the wound is so deep, it will leave a scar, right? But how do I celebrate a scar? I make my scar into a tattoo and celebrate it. Celebrate my new form, right? Because I think the thing about us is we are often thinking that your form needs to be perfect. But life has never been about perfection. It is about feeling together, appreciating the journey, and knowing that you've given the best shot in life is what fulfillment is all about, right? So I think it's work in progress, number one. Number two, I also think that as we get along with life, we take on, it all depends how much you take on, right? When you take on more roles, there are more identity involved, right? And when that happens, life gets complex. And when life gets complex, you take time to deal with the complexity, untangle, go and come back. But the result of the evolution is growth and maybe wisdom, right? And I think that's what we need to learn how to appreciate, that being wholesome is not a destination. Just like, nothing is a destination. Life is not a destination, right? Life is really about, at every moment in my life, I live today in the best way I can, knowing that today's best is only today's best, because tomorrow's best is going to be better than today's best.
Beautiful words, beautiful words. So, and the thought behind it's like so deep that I believe the 30 minutes will not even be enough to just to grasp it. So please, guys, if you would like to learn more about Malar and what she is about and what she means with being whole, then please reach out to her. The name is here. You just have to go to LinkedIn and write to her and connect with her. And please write in the connection request GES 2021, then she will know that you were watching this. And Malar, at the end point, I would just want to say thank you for Cheryl for watching and putting the comments, for Simfong for being here, and also for Miss Jacinta for the comments. She's saying it's very powerful and not everyone can pull it off, what you pulled off. So it's kind of like a hard journey, but yeah, it's beautiful, right? So what would be What would be your message to the audience at the end of the interview? What would be your message to the young and the wise? How could they be whole again?
Okay. Well, I for me, it's really what I've come to realize, especially during the pandemic. Life is really, really uncertain and short. And so I mean, for me, the pandemic has really made me think. After experiencing losses and seeing people go through losses, right? One question that I've begin to ask myself is that why have I been spared? Why have I been given the second chance? Because I'm still safe, right? And I think the idea of life being short has really caught into me. And if life is short, is it worth living any other life other than our own life? And is it worth bringing ourselves in relationships that really, really matter, without bringing our whole self? So I think one is life is too short and too precious for us to live anybody else's life. And which is why we really need to be ourselves, find ourselves, firstly. And secondly, show up as whole. And, if you realize that, and I have found in the last 12 months, some of my parts are missing, right? And that gives us now room for excitement to go and look for ourselves. Can we be most curious about who we are and what we're interested in, why we are the way we are? And by the time we put the puzzles together, I think it will be time for the journey to be over. So we've got a whole lifetime. Just enjoy the moment. Being curious about yourself and finding parts of you, celebrating the moments when you're whole, and also celebrating the moments when you feel you're not whole because you have survived and thrived despite not being whole. And that itself, I think, would make us whole.
That's my message.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Malar. It was beautiful to have you here. Please, you can also tell where the people can reach out if it wasn't LinkedIn.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook, Malarvili Subramaniam, and Instagram, malar.vili. You can find me. But, Andre, I want to thank you for being who you are and putting this amazing summit together. I don't know how you do it. I'm not even going to try understanding, but really thank you very, very much. And I think wishing you the best will be an undermining statement. So keep flying and keep taking the many people that you are raising with the work that you do and just by being who you are. So thank you for having me. It's been a privilege and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. So let's say goodbye to you and let's welcome Carl in the studio. He's already here, so I will just play a little bit of a branding and then we will get back with Carl. Thank you very much, Malar. It was amazing to have you.
All right, see you. Bye.
Bye. See you. Hello. Quick switch. We are here with Carl. Hi, Carl. How are you today? Oh, we cannot hear you. Let me unmute you. Now
can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Good. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm super good. I was so excited to meet you again because such a long time we haven't had the opportunity to talk, and it's just a nice time to catch up with all of you.
It is a nice time. I was enjoying Melora. She had such great wisdom and such insight on a lot of the things that she was saying. It's just powerful.
Yeah, that's true. She's a gem. So all the experts actually are showing that I was so right in the selection process because everyone is bringing their heart in and sharing so openly. Everyone is honest, and even if people are watching these sessions not live but later, they can learn so much of you. And even if they just implement one thing from one video, I will be already happy because then we reach the goal and we elevated people. So Carl, it's really nice to have you. We don't know too
Yes.
much about you. So tell us a little bit about yourself so that the audience can get to know you a little bit better. So where are you from? What are you doing? Even do you have a pet? Something personal.
No, I don't have a pet. I'm just Carl Sean Watkins. I am CEO and founder, Carl Sean Watkins Consultant, and a culture consultant and a vulnerability coach. So I do everything that I do is striving through vulnerability and showing that it's your superpower. So if you lean into it and you embrace it, and also if you use it strategically and intentionally, it is very powerful and to open up and it draws connections, deeper connections than that we might really want to see, but will really empower us if we desire to. So that's really what I do. I coach, I train, I do workshops, I do anything concerning that. I consult businesses as well, and it is a powerful tool that which we have. And when you look at delving into yourself, and that I'm also a law student, inspiring civil rights attorney, so I have quite a few hats that I wear, but vulnerability is just really my key. Just letting you be yourself, embracing who you truly are, being authentic and true to yourself. And this is what really drives me. It's how I live. It's what I do. It's a lifestyle for me. So a lot of people like to say different things that they do. You know, they can put it on the shelf and go pick it up later. That's not how I deal with vulnerability. I live it every day, and it comes out in everything that I put my hands to.
I love that. I love vulnerability. You know, I'm such a sensible person, and I was like a very shy person before. I never told this story yeah, like in video, but I remember me crying when we went with my father, you know, to an exhibition, and we were with a lot of people. I was around 9 years old, and he told me, "You're right. You asked that person what time it is because I don't have my watch." And he sent me away, and I had to ask the guy who I never talked to at a place where there were thousands of people, and I didn't do it. I was crying. I was standing in place and I was crying. And he was like, "We don't move anywhere until you don't go there and don't ask the time." And I will always remember this moment. That's where my vulnerability was born. I was crying.
Yeah,
With people.
that's a great story, and that's usually where it's really birthed at. It's birthed out of the fear that people have, and the amazing thing about it is that the dictionary tells you the definition of vulnerability, and it explains to you, and it talks about only that side of it, and that's what everyone takes away from vulnerability. I don't want to be involved in it. I don't want to face it. I don't want to. But the key to it is, without fear, there's no growth. So when you're not facing your fears, you're not growing out of the person that you've been your comfort zone to be. And vulnerability helps you do that. It puts you in places where, okay, I'm not that great there, or I'm uncomfortable there. But in comfortability comes growth as well. So how can I expand my borders? How can I expand my territories, and just even my knowledge base and who I am, learning who I am? Because a lot of times we don't even really know who we are. We don't push ourselves to certain places. We don't go out of our comfort zones to really see what we could be, what we could accomplish. And a lot of times we look at people that's great and done many things. They've only pushed themselves. And if we design ourselves to push ourselves out of the places that where we feel comfortable at, our vulnerability can see that it is a superpower because it's going to push you to limits and spaces that you never thought possible in your mind.
Carla, I have a question because I am always thinking about this. Like, what is the truth here? Do people need to be pushed to become vulnerable and to understand vulnerability and get out of their comfort zone? Or it's coming from an inner intuition that, okay, it's time to become vulnerable? Or how are people motivated to become vulnerable?
It's a little both when you really think about it. Our vulnerability we don't let live, and when I say that is that every opportunity we have to hide within that and put up that wall, we do. It's our natural instincts to protect ourselves from hurt, and a lot of times people. The receivers, I call them senders and receivers. And when you're vulnerable, you're both of those. At points in times, you send out signals to say, you know, I'm vulnerable in this area. We've gotten good at masking that because that's what people do. We don't want anyone to know anything about us that consider us to be weak. But it's really not being weak. What it is giving you an opportunity for someone to fill that void. And a lot of times it's not filled correctly. And so this is why we carry this burden of, oh man, I don't want to be vulnerable because it shows that I'm weak. But in essence, everyone is vulnerable. I mean, you can't, it's not nothing that I can say, no, I'm not vulnerable. Yes, you are. In situations and circumstances, vulnerability rears its head. And it's how we respond to it is what really makes the difference. So it's not pushed, but what you have to do is face it. It's such as something that you're fearful of. And when you face your fears, and anyone that has faced your fears, anyone that's listening or anyone knows, once you face your fears, you're empowered. You're not afraid of that anymore. That doesn't have a hold on you anymore. And that's how vulnerability works. Once I have an understanding of who I am, I'm not fearful of what you think of me. I'm not fearful of how you categorize me because I'm empowered in who I am. And that's truly living to your fullness. That's truly living authentic when you can do that.
And again, let's bust another myth. What's with the guys and the ladies? And vulnerability. Is it not existing? Is it hidden when it's about a man, or is it just a society that is showing us that men cannot cry and they are not vulnerable? What's happening here?
Yes, I think a lot of it, and not a lot of it, pretty much majority of it, it comes from how we're upbringed. I mean, I was brought up that way as well. As most men were, and if you were not, you're in the select few. Men don't cry. You don't show yourself as being weak. A lot of times, I can remember riding a bike and people would fall. I would fall off, and my dad would like, get up, wipe your knees up. We have this posture that we're supposed to be so intrinsic of being nothing phases us. And this is a lot of what's wrong with society. We haven't taken grips of what is really phasing us. We haven't dealt with that. And the pandemic has really brought that to a forefront where people had to really face themselves. It was no more the hustle and bustle, the 80 to 80 hours a week, traveling here for soccer moms, football practices. All those things were put on hold. And the reset was pressed. And that was pressed for us to really do a self-inventory of ourselves, learn more about ourselves. So therefore, when we engage or interact with others, we could be prepared. Like we just have lost really touch with humanity and what that really means. And we've lost that touch because we're not vulnerable. We don't want anyone to think that we need help. And we all need help. At some point in time, we all need help. And now you can see that. You see it on these platforms that have changed. LinkedIn has become this place now from a job resume place to a place of humanity where people can put on posts of maybe weddings, deaths in their families. They can get support. This is what humanity is designed for, but we've lost that because we've lost the ability and the knack and the internets of being vulnerable with each other. And then once we bring that back, we'll see how more things will gravitate toward a better place to be where we're not so critical of everything about everybody.
Okay, next question, because you are so inspiring, so I have to keep on asking questions. So about we've talked about the female, we talked about the male, we talked about the big picture of vulnerability, we talked about how it was born, how it's creating this kind of feeling of being yourself. Mm-hmm. But what about the young generation who is like not having as much emotional upbringing, sitting in front of the computer, getting these cold emojis here, there, and back, and then being on the anxiety side because of the instant gratification, and then not showing themselves and filtering themselves out and all these things because they cannot really show their vulnerability. They get some masks. They put on some masks to hide that vulnerability, but inside they are really suffering because there is a high number of anxiety, a high number of suicide, especially within teenager age groups. So what do you think about this? What's happening there with the vulnerability in this generation?
I think it really has to be, the narrative has to change. And that's really the dynamic that I'm in. The understanding of what it means to be vulnerable has to change. We as an adults that are fostering these children that are bringing them along, they're much smarter, they're much wiser, but yes, they hold a lot of more. And that's only because they've been taught that. Parents have not taught their children to be vulnerable. We have conversations such as, anyone touch you here, please tell me. We have those kind of conversations with, someone touch you in your bad place. We have those with our children, but we don't have those with our children. Where if you're feeling this way, if this is going on, we don't sit down and have the conversations. What we have really came down to be is we've let the internet raise our kids. in the essence of speaking. We've letting the iPads, okay, on the ride to school, or we've letting that, and that's again, I got to keep reiterating it because I think it's such an important point. That was the purpose of the pandemic, was to reset how we dealt with each other. And if we're going to continue on in dealing with each other in that, you go to a restaurant or someplace now, you see the kid on the phone, the mom on the phone, the dad on the phone, the daughter on the phone, and they're all sitting there at the dinner table, or they're sitting there at the restaurant, and no one is engaging, no one is talking to each other. Everybody's either on their social media, everybody is commenting. Kids are at work. You have to, as parents, and especially if you have younger children, you have to engage them, because if you're not, they're being taught by other areas and other situations and other platforms, but which you don't want them to be educating your child. So when you come into that, yes, mental health has really took a forefront on what's going on right now, and it's been not just a young person's thing. It's been a humanity thing. We're really starting to take focus on, I'm not all right. I'm not okay, and it's okay that I'm not okay. Let's seek some help with that. We're not injured, and we always have it to fact that if I'm like this, no one's gonna love me. Actually, because you like that, people are gonna love you, because you're in those situations. People want to love you, and yes, you're going to get some that's going to be that. That's how it is. You can't get everybody to be on board with you with all, but the majority, and you can see even on the platforms that you're on, if you get on those platforms and you show those kind of things, more times than not, people are sympathetic, empathetic to what you're going on with. They derive you and tell you and direct you to get help for that. And this is what we have to continue to do as mentors, as leaders in these positions, when we're on these jobs and we're in corporate. Be mentors to those that's younger than you. If you have experience, if you have direction, give them guidance. A lot of times that's really what the youth needs. So we can go back to the biblical and say, spare the rod, spoil the child. Well, we're back into that actual thing right now. You have to change the outcome, and you have to change the narrative, and in changing that, change is made. But we can't keep on doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome. I think they call that insanity.
Love it, love it. I could speak about this hours and hours. The same like Malar, both of you are like on the fields that I so love. It's all about people and all about societal intelligence and all the things that we need to reform and narratives that we have to change. I'm doing the same within the empowerment field, and it's just have to change. So many narratives have to refurbished. So Charlene is saying changing the narrative will help change outcomes and lives. Thank you, Charlene, for commenting. Thank you, Simfong and Cheryl, for being here. And let's go to the leadership part, because that's a little bit less that we talked about, and we have around like 5-6 minutes to finish the conversation up with this part. And we will see you also tonight in the 21st century must-have skills panel
Yes,
discussion.
looking
I'm
forward to
so
that.
looking forward to it. All of you are such amazing people, and
Yes.
talking about it, it will be amazing just to see it from the backstage. But let's close this conversation, the short interview with you, about leadership and vulnerability. Why is it so important in an organization to be vulnerable as a leader? And how does it help you? Because before it was all like, you cannot be like the weak person, because then the people in your team will not look up to you. And this was kind of like the old setup of being vulnerable as a leader. What's happening? What's new here? Why is it changing?
I think it's changing. It's definitely changing based upon where we are right now in the world, where corporate is right now, and the understanding that we have. It's not going back to where it used to be. And I think companies and businesses and corporations are continually following this model. So how can I do this? I can only be vulnerable as a company, as a corporation. So there, I must empower vulnerable leadership. And in empowering the vulnerable leadership, what I've allowed them to do is really be human. That's really what boils down to. When you look at it, there's exceptions. There's no more of that. Okay, you got things going on. Why need you at work? I mean, the hard line stances are going to have to change, because if we would just look at the numbers of it during the course of these 18 plus months of being in the pandemic, productivity actually has increased for those that's worked at home. So we can't go back to that old adage of, yeah, you're working from home, you got to be watched, you got to be micromanaged. That's not the case. People being at home in their own environments, and they'll be accountable. Not only that, they're understanding that for first time in a long time, in what we're in, people are really understanding their value. They understand what they're bringing to the table. They're empowered by what they bring to the table. So now that sets the bar again with negotiations and moving forward. So in that vulnerability, you have to be vulnerable in leadership, and even in leading people. People have to see that you're a same human as them. A lot of times we go around thinking that we got all the answers, we can do it all, we can all that. But I think you get and you gain more respect from those that you're leading when they have an understanding, not necessarily deeming you as being weak, but they have an understanding that you are empowering us to go with you. And I think this is the essential that we're going to be moving forward to with the leadership. It's going to have to be a team effort. And in that, the team is going to recognize that I have a important place. I have a value in what we're doing, and I am of value to what we're gaining. So, with that being said, with you being vulnerable, you're going to have that self awareness. You're going to have that understanding. You're going to have to incorporate all of those skills within. But vulnerability is going to lead the key because it's going to give you that discernment and awareness to what each individual that you're leading is capable of, the development that they can bring, and putting them in situations to grow. It's going to be the biggest reason for vulnerable leadership, because we're not going to have a lot of people going to get jobs and tapping onto these jobs like before. As you can see, a lot of people not going back to them like they were before. So what you're going to have to do is see the value in those that have come back, empower them, and move forward. And that's going to take vulnerability and leadership to do that.
Love the perspectives, love it. So please, guys, if you are interested in all this and vulnerability in leadership, then please search for Carl Watkins on LinkedIn, and also I believe on Instagram, because you are active there. Plus also on Clubhouse, because you are an active Clubhouser, right?
Yes, Clubhouse, and also on my YouTube channel. I'm getting a little more active on there. I need subscribers, so I'm going to get a little more active on there as well. Carl Watkins Consultants as well.
Thank you very much for this little share, and we will see you very, very soon at the panel discussion starting from 9 p.m. Malaysia time. So It's really an exciting time. I'm really looking forward to it. But before we do that, we will have a parenting workshop with Teacher Keen. So it's kind of like a nice lineup here, from being Wall to being me, through vulnerability to be vulnerable parents and teaching our kids something new. So
yes, it's important. It's important. Let them express how they feel, and don't be judgmental in hearing it. Be supportive, and that's the same way it is even for the adults. We say it with the kids because they'll be the first ones to tell you, but adults as well. Let's learn how to be supportive of each other.
Beautiful message. Beautiful message. Thank you very much, Carl, for this amazing 25 minutes with you.
I
will catch up with you very soon and see you very, very, very soon at the panel discussion.
All right. See you soon.
Bye, Carl. Thank you guys for watching and commenting. Thank you, Malard. Thank you, Charlene.
Thank you, guys.